Hey everybody, it's Brian here from LTL Media, and what you're about to watch is a replay of a one-of-a-kind event that took place this past Sunday, a live show in front of a live audience. This wasn't just another stream, it was a very groundbreaking moment for LTL Media and what all the possibilities of this channel can be. And here's the things that I think that we captured during this live event: a live show, a live audience, unfiltered and broad commentary, and the most important thing is community. And this community that we've built is more than just a headline. It's about standing up, speaking out, and shining light on what's wrong in the state here of Massachusetts and across our great country. Before we watch this replay, just a couple of shout outs and thank yous. I want to thank Lauren DC, one of my besties, for your hustle, your commitment to helping get this thing off the ground, and your amazing work throughout the whole setup and breakdown. Second, a big shout out to my co-host, Mark Mazzamedia. You brought it and made it happen. And then we had an awesome treat with two great people in the audience: retired Mass State Police Todd McGee and Adam Teeper for Teeper Legal, for jumping up spontaneously and joining our panel and answering questions from our audience live and on the live stream. And of course, our live audience, both in studio and chat, you all made this happen. It was such an amazing event. Monday night for me was epic. And again, it just shows all the possibilities of what this platform can be. And I'm thinking next time, a much bigger venue with a much bigger audience. All right, sit back and enjoy this replay. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below and let me know what you think. And we'll talk soon. Are live. Look at this live audience. This is awesome.
Great,
so cool, right?
Awesome.
So cool.
Yep.
Listen, we want to thank everybody for being here. This is the first time we've ever done this in front of a live audience, so this is pretty cool to be able to do this, and hopefully we can keep continuing to grow this audience, because we want to make this as huge as possible and get some of these other great people that are with us tonight up on these panel. So what's up, man?
I'm ready to go, man.
All right.
Good to see you. Great
It's
to
good
be
to
here.
see you.
We got no stunt doubles tonight because the audience is here. Usually we use stand-in, stunt doubles, CGI characters, and sometimes AI audio to make it seem like we're actually talking. So if we've been
nuts.
Yeah, now we got to be real.
We got to be real. We got to be real. But we wanted to invite everybody out to kind of talk about and reminisce about, the whole Karen Reed experience and going through these two bogus trials. Obviously, Karen should not have gone through all of this. And, again, I still say to everybody that when we talk on these shows that we still have a lot of work to do. Karen is going through her civil case now. We were talking about that before we went live. And, just with civil cases, it takes quite a while. I mean, you're going to go through a lot of depositions, a lot of lawyer changes back and forth. But again, we wanted to bring everybody in and kind of talk about, and I changed our sign because it used to say free Karen Reed, and now we have freed Karen Reed. So that's pretty cool. And you guys have all been part of that.
No worse.
So Mark, how did you get involved in all of this?
Oh boy. I'm basically a Turtle Boy guy. Basically, I followed Turtle Boy going back to probably around 2013, 2014. I actually messaged him one time, I think around 2014 to 2016, about another situation that had happened that I had some info on. We briefly talked about it, never went anywhere because it was just a dead end. And that's kind of where I earned a lot of, saw a lot about Turtle Boy, and his credibility was he wouldn't pursue something if there was nothing there. So after following him all these years, saw him on, I think, the Jerry Callahan show during COVID. He, I kind of saw him post about the Karen Reed case. I'm like, what's all this here? You're not used to seeing him out with like people with signs and free Karen Reed this, free Karen Reed, that. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. Let me read this article. So I read the article, and everything kind of changed for me because I had Mazzamedia actually since 2014, but I never really used it for much. I used to be a publication online where I'd blog, and I didn't really want to do the blogging. And then I started to do audio shows right before the Super Bowl, Patriots-Rams Super Bowl. The last time Brady won as a Patriot, me and my buddies got together, did a Super Bowl preview. The next week they wanted to do another show. We kind of went on and on for years, through COVID and all that. So finally, in the fall of 2023, I was busy on X talking about Karen Reed all the time. lost interest in my shows. The next thing I know, I started to stream and started to talk about Karen Reed all the time. And then it kind of blew up from there. And I figured, I'm like, I have people that watch my show now. This is interesting because the sports shows don't really bring in much, but it was like, it was interesting because it was like, now I started to realize that, I could help participate in supporting Karen by doing the show. But then all of a sudden it kind of dawned on me, I could help raise money by doing these shows. And that kind of became my drive, was not only to raise awareness, but to help Karen, and fundraising shows kind of became where my heart was at, first and foremost for all of us. So definitely, man.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
It has been.
Has been a wild ride. I've met so many great people through all of this.
Yep.
And so many great people here that have blessed my panel. We have Todd McGee here. We have Adam Teeper Legal hanging in. Lauren's been over there. Lauren, I don't know if anybody knows, Lauren actually did the first Karen Reed standout in DC. That's how I met Lauren. She reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm doing a Karen Reed standout in front of the White House. So she actually did that. And that's how we became friends through all of this.
That's wild.
It's pretty wild. And so many great people that I've met through all of this, so many people that have supported in so many different ways. But for myself, I started my channel about 4.5 years ago. I was in the watch industry for like 16 years. And it was like peak COVID. I'm like, all right. I always kept saying, like, I want to do a YouTube channel. I want to do a YouTube channel. And I had the opportunity to do it. And I think a lot of people started their channels during COVID. There was nothing to do. Like, remember the going to your friend's house and standing 6 feet apart in their backyard, hanging out. I was just doing that stuff. And I'm like, I could be doing a lot more here. So I was talking about wristwatches. I was in the industry for like 16 years. I met a group of live streamers that really had the chops. And I said, wow, these guys kind of get it. And so I started doing that. And then like halfway through that experience, the Idaho 4 case, Brian Koberger, and I did about 1.5 years of content on my channel. And someone in one of my live chats was like, hey, you live in Massachusetts. Have you heard about the Karen Reed trial? And I was like, yeah. Like I've heard about this, and I memory banked it. And I said, oh, maybe that's something I can go back to. And a lot more people started to talk in my chat about it. And I started seeking out, the information. I remember reading the first probable cause affidavit, and I said, wait a minute, something doesn't add up here. And then that, naturally put me down that wormhole, and I ended up on Aiden, Turtle Boy. And I went, okay, if this guy's on it, and I knew about Aiden for a long time, if this guy's involved in it and he's talking about it, then something's going on here. And then what was it? Just probably maybe a month later, I had him on the show for the first time. And I was really new in learning about Karen's case at that time. I didn't really know all the intricacies and all the people that were involved and all the law enforcement officials that were all intertwined in this, the McAlberts family. And I was honest when I reached out to Aiden. I said, look, I'm just hearing about this. I want to be educated about it. Come on my channel and educate my audience. And he was so gracious to do that. We had a lot of fun. And that's kind of how I got started on this journey.
Absolutely. Just a special announcement for everyone that's here today. There's been a lot of taillight that's been found by the Canton Police Department. If for any reason anybody where you're sitting tonight happens to find any taillight anywhere where you're sitting, we do have red Solo cups up front.
And we found Chloe, by the way, too.
Lauren DC is over here. You can bring that up to Lauren. We'll put that in that cup make sure it gets to the proper people. So thank you.
And we found Chloe, of course, and Microdots and our tribute to Turtle over here too. So yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride. I mean, it's been extremely wild ride. And I can only imagine what Karen has gone through.
Oh, sure.
All of this, almost essentially losing everything and, coming out on what I call Victory Day. I mean, it was a victory. I don't know if any of you in the audience were out there, but it was insane. Hands. Yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
It felt like a movie, like literally being out there. I literally thought like Hollywood cameras were going to come out and be like, okay, cut. I mean, that's how it felt.
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And it just, to be out there and to be in that moment. And it was like, I kept saying to Mark, I said, this is the way it had to end, though. There was no other
Yeah.
outcome out of all of this.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I felt.
Well, the power of the people too. Like, we look at everyone that's come out here today. First of all, again, thank you for being here.
Yeah, of
but
course.
This shows how passionate and dedicated everyone here has been to freeing Karen Reed, to helping Aiden Carney. And I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of interest in other situations such as Sandra Birchmore, Enrique Delgado Garcia, just en route as well in the state. And I think that's what the power is, that for one of the, we all were participants in the largest capacity rising up against corruption, whether at a local police, state police, DA's office, and even state level. It's probably ever been mobilized in the history of this state, to the point where we not only had people in our own state, but other states, not only in this country, but other countries, that had all participated in fighting for Karen Reed and getting this job done. And we brought upon change. And this is a very big statement, because when the people that are out there, whether they're in Hollywood or national news media or whatever, are saying all the people in pink shirts that are out there standing tall, spending all those days out in the summer. I see Jen's here. Jen, all the standouts that you ran, everyone else, all the standouts you've all been at. You know, everyone's been very active. Signs all over the place, signs all over the states. This was a huge thing. And at the end of the day, we were extremely victorious and very successful.
And they're still going on today, too.
Yeah.
And the standouts are still happening today.
Yeah.
Still a lot of work to do.
There's justice for John O'Keefe still needs to happen
100%.
too. And they just want this all to go away, and thought we'd all forget. But at the same time, a Boston police officer was murdered. It was not Karen Reed who did it. We all have our thoughts and theories about who did or who was involved and at what level. But at the same time, there still needs to be justice for John O'Keefe on the right terms, not on the wrong terms, not on the let's blame Karen Reed and run her through 2 trials and have this thing go on for 3 years, but actually to get justice for John O'Keefe, a man who lost his life. And we all know the other side. We wore the pink shirts. They wore the blue shirts. They tried to act like we didn't really care about John O'Keefe, but that was false. We always did. But the problem is they wanted to put this on Karen, and we had to fight for Karen first to get her out of this, so she could move on with her life and, you know, battle a few civil suits here and there, and eventually file some of her own that she's working on right now pretty heavily. I'll transition.
Isn't it funny?
Yep.
Isn't it funny that I fought for almost a year and a half to get my press pass and be inside that courtroom through 2 trials, and I try again, and all of a sudden I get my press pass now? So that proves to you that they didn't want any positive press in that courtroom for Karen. They did not want it. And look at all the times they try to keep Aiden out of the courtroom from reporting.
Just Machado.
And thank God for same thing with Just Machado. You know, having her on the show and going through that grid and seeing who was allowed to be in that courtroom, and even people that were even on that list that weren't even showing up, they would not give that spot up and let positive press in there for Karen. I think it's extremely ironic, and that's why, you know, right when I got my press pass, I reached out to, I go, you won't even believe. And she's like, what? I got my press pass now. And I'm like, what is the timing of that? You know, what is the timing of that? And obviously it was to keep people out of the courtroom. And I remember going back and looking at my first inquiry. I wrote in the inquiry, I've been covering the Karen Reed trials. And that's it.
Put that press pass on the shelf for a year before we mail it. Yeah. Tell them after it's did it come with dust on it by any chance?
Yeah.
When you got that thing? Yeah.
And blew it off. The spider web came off of
Oh
it.
my goodness.
But no, I'm glad that I got it.
Yeah.
I have a tool now and the ability to be inside the courtroom, which is great. You know, barring if the mainstream media don't start showing up to all these trials. We have Brian Walsh coming up, of course. I think that's in October. So I'm going to try to get in and sit in as much as I can during that trial as well, too.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of cases out there, and obviously Koberger's was very interesting too.
Nuts.
What he, that thing ended up going a lot quicker than I thought. We were all expecting a big trial, but then he ended up pleading guilty. I always thought he was guilty. That was kind of my
100%.
impression. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
100% guilty. 100% guilty. So yeah, I mean, we have again still a lot of work to do here, and now it's curious. I'm curious to see. When we were talking about this before we went on air, recent reports coming out. You know, Karen's civil attorneys now are filing for records in the Sandra Birchmore case, which is very interesting. And you're seeing, again, all this intertwining to get that information.
Yeah.
And we were saying, you know, did John know something more than what's been led up to be? Why do they want to look deeper in these cases? Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, to see all that kind of intertwining going on right now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what her defense team's got. Her civil civil lawyers are going to do in this whole thing. That's one of the things I've been kind of very intrigued about this whole time, is when Karen finally starts to go on the offense in this whole particular thing. And for the longest time, she's been on the defense, and now finally she can sit down with the team. It's, obviously she's gonna have civil attorneys to defend her against the, incoming lawsuit, civil suit against her, but also now it's her turn to go on the attack and start digging up things on the state police, digging up things on the DA's office, which has been obviously more than amply corrupt. I don't think anybody here has any confidence in the Norfolk County DA's office or Michael Morrissey himself. It's all been very much a big controversy from the word go. The whole way this case was handled. And that's the thing too about these people that are in power, is that a lot of times they might have been doing this for all we know in other cases, other matters. And it just, the light was never shed on it for some particular reason. Because you look at when Aiden started reporting this, boy, they ended up coming after him, didn't they? They made sure he was thrown in jail for 60 days and did everything they could to shut him down and shut him up and make an example out of him. They basically tried to say, let's lock him up. Let's try to intimidate the rest of them and hope they all back down. That's why it's so powerful that all of us,
Buffer zone.
watching the buffer zone, even that. Yeah.
First one, and then they extended it and extended it and extended it.
The small courtroom. They had the small courtroom. No one could go in.
It's all by design.
Yeah. They had that nice large courtroom for the hearing. 20, 30 people could go and sit in the place. Then all of a sudden it's, well, let's scale that down so 6 or 7 people per side can fit in it. And that was about it. It was ridiculous, especially for such a, pretty much.
Yeah. That was funny too, because I remember going in and sitting in trial 2, because I sat in twice, trial 1, trial 2, and you're talking about the air conditioning. They were like, that courtroom it was midsummer, it was boiling in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably like at least over 100 degrees.
We're gonna have to shut the fans off.
Yeah, shut the fans off. And then it was like, the air conditionings are running. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
No, not in this room.
Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I sat in the courtroom, it was the one and only time I got to get in, and I'm sitting there and the head bailiff is just staring at me the whole time. He's just looking at, for the first 20 minutes, I'm like, am I going to get thrown out? Am I going to get in trouble? I'm just sitting here. That's all I'm doing. I swear to you. And he's just like, and after that, he was just cool. I'm like, okay, good. It was just, it was tense in there.
I had Paul O'Keefe stare at me twice.
I did too. Yeah.
Very, very long. Actually, I'll tell you a story really quick. And I don't think I've ever talked about this one, but I can now because the trial's over and I really don't care. We were coming back from, I don't think it was trial. It might've been a hearing, and we were out in the parking lot, and I'm walking back, and I know that I tend to park in that Deeds building. If obviously you've all been in there, I usually tend to park towards the back of the parking lot because it's just easier to get out instead of filing through all the cars. So I remember one time, I can't remember if it was trial or a hearing, but we come out and the McAlberts are actually walking in front of me, and Paul O'Keefe's with them, and he probably had a little bit of distance on me, and he turns around and he literally starts waving at me. And I'm like, are you serious right now? And then, a couple of the Free Karen Reed supporters, my friend Jody was actually in the parking lot, and I grabbed her. I said, can you just walk over the car with me? Because I was parked where they were, because I just didn't want anything like them to say anything that started, or if they start something and they try to blame me, and I have like my phone out and I'm ready to record, just anything. But he literally started waving at me in the parking lot. I'm like, you gotta be kidding.
Well, I think that when it comes to the Registry of Deeds parking lot and all that too, I think what's great is we don't have to worry about John DePetro being here today.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us need our vehicles.
Yeah, just check your vehicle when you go out. You might have a crack. How funny is that though? That whole thing ends with a cracked tail light.
Yeah.
I mean, can you believe that?
Yeah. It was wild. It was just, it was just crazy that he did. He did that. He blocked me on Twitter because I asked him. I go, "What were the findings of your taillight experiment that you conducted at the parking lot?" And he goes, "No collision." I said, "Okay, fine." Then he blocked me. So that was it.
I mean, the irony of that, though, like after everything that we've been talking about for years, it's like a cracked taillight.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
right. Well, what actually shocked me most about the taillight was my theory was kind of like, I felt that no crack or shattering could have ever occurred. Now, I'm never thinking along the lines of an arm break or a shoulder break or anything like separation, anything like that. And when ARCA did their examination and actually did a marvelous job, they were as great as they've always been. They were 10 times better in the second trial, in my opinion,
100%.
with that reenactment. And they show the arm and it's like, oh my goodness. It's like, right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I know Aperture did a bang up job. So great that one of them's out of there now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No bruising on the arm. It's like, and then, it's always wild. I don't like to trample on anti-Karen Read too much, but we'll do that for the point of why not? Why not?
Do.
The fact that they didn't believe that those were dog bites. I mean, look at the teeth here. It's all patterned. This isn't even a real dog. It's a rubber dog mask, and look at the teeth. It's all patterns. It looks like scratches. It's like, how can taillight ever cause a pattern? And what bothered me so much about those debates with anti-Karen Read was they just wouldn't step off their stance, that they just believed it was taillight. It's like, there's no way this is going to be causing these kinds of wounds. Even if it did cut, even if it did shatter, even if it did cause some cuts and scrapes, it's not going to look like claw marks, bite marks, and more claw marks. It just doesn't make any sense. And that was honestly, I've heard this on other shows. Other people have said this too. You can pick any one of 12 to 20 different things that you want to have as your primary theory to prove Karen Read's innocence. All you need is one, because that's all the proof that you need.
I knew right away when I saw the arm, I was like, that doesn't look right. How is that? What? They said that a taillight did that?
Yeah.
And then reading through the, finding out and then reading through the PCA and stuff, you're like, oh, and they had a German Shepherd. Oh, okay. That makes sense now. Right. And I guarantee you, and I was going to do this as a video, but I didn't know how it was going to kind of play with the public. And I didn't want to really do this, but I had this idea that I was going to take a photo of the arm, of John's arm, and show it to people and say, what do you think did this? And not tell them, and see what people came up with and poll people. But I was just like, it's probably a little insensitive. I didn't want to do that to John.
Yeah. So. I think we talked about doing that, and we decided against it just because of the we thought it was going to be a little too insensitive. Just to do that.
But I've shown people before that didn't even know anything about this case. And I went, what do you think did this? And the first, a couple of people would be like, oh, it looked like a knife attack. Like someone cut the arm with a knife. And then they would go, the second would be like, I don't know, it looks like some kind of animal attacked the arm. And then I would go, so what would you think if I told you that was a German Shepherd? And they're like, oh, that's definitely what it did. It looks scratches or bites.
Yeah.
So
it was a wild case. I thought, like I said, that I personally felt, I think we all agree on this, that the defense did more than an ample job in the first trial.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, I don't know if the jury got confused, obviously, because of that verdict slip that was obviously shady, but I thought it was brilliant what they did, kind of giving that jury the DUI, OUI option this time around, just to give that out. Because I knew that's the number one thing the defense did not want. But you look at the judge, though, Judge Cannoni, as soon as she sees that verdict slip before she reads it, it's sheer disappointment in her. And I have a real issue with that, because not only have I always long said the judge was the biggest problem in this whole thing, because she was the gatekeeper of the Commonwealth and she was the gatekeeper of helping out, the prosecution. But you look at everything and it's like, to have someone with that kind of reaction, that kind of attitude, when you have someone in a judge's seat that we are entrusting as a public to really just straight down the middle and straight down the line, analyze something and give her, really, it's not her place to speak in terms of opinion. It's just her place to oversee the courtroom and keep it orderly and concise in a way that's consistent with how the law should be conducted inside of a courtroom. But to see her kind of look like this, like her 15 minutes of fame are over, it's like, well, that's your reaction, because a lot of us have theorized that she didn't have she was very anti-Karen Read with 100%. A lot of her behavior. The 100%. Objections that the defense got shot down. Alan Jackson was on Howie Carr a day or two after that trial, saying on Howie Carr, how many times did we object and we got shut down?
Someone put a list together. I think there was a list floating around of how many sustained objections there were and how many objections there were against the defense versus the prosecution.
300 something.
What was it?
One witness, 48 times.
48 times.
Yeah. Wow.
That's crazy.
Off of one witness alone. And that's their two trials too. Add up both trials. It was insane. And they did what they could. I mean, they tried to absolutely stack the deck against Karen through every means imaginable, from the judge helping out to basically fighting witnesses, even before this second trial began.
All the voir dire.
Dr. Marie Russell.
Yeah.
They're trying to question her credentials. Yet a guy from Aperture is allowed in there, and his credentials are being called out on the stand.
I'll tell you, that was probably like one of the sweetest parts of the second trial. Just seeing how these prosecution witnesses just melted when they got asked about their credentials. And to see Man Shannon just get obliterated on the stand by Robert Alessi. I mean, it was just it was amazing.
What? Him with the black glove. Yeah, it's like oh my
his
goodness.
passion.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was like,
yeah.
I mean, I love Alan. I love all of them. You know, Alan really was like the first trial star. We saw him a lot, but we saw a lot of Robert Alessi this time around, and he really just shined.
I think too.
I love it.
Yeah, no, he definitely shined. He was amazing. I think too, there's so much involved with such a case like this because it was so huge, it was so extravagant, there was so much detail that you needed, like, they kept needing more and more attorneys because you just need to have that ability to not have as much on your plate. It's like if you're in school, sometimes they're just having 3 courses, 5 courses, or God forbid you take 6 or more if anybody's crazy enough to do that, right? But it's a lot of work and you can't be focused and study and have the right angles and preparation. But when you bring in Robert Alessi, you can take a lot of that burden off. It's a lot more time where they can concentrate exactly on what they want to do. I think they had a great sample size of the first trial. I also felt that during the first trial, they tried a lot of tactics, and this time the defense kind of was very wise to those and kind of knew how to tailor everything right down to that verdict slip at the very end too, which they tailored very
The first trial, I mean, it gave them a lot of information, and I think also and thank you, Aiden Carney, for getting Ronnie the juror on. I mean, I think that helped out a lot too, because they could come, and believe me, they were watching that stream. I mean, but we got a lot of information of how people were thinking inside that jury room, and then hiring on the actual juror that was in, and forgive me,
Victoria George,
and bring her as a consultant to say what was going on in that room.
That was huge because I think too, like, it gives them 2 things. How did the prosecution get the better of them in a way that would not allow that clear, concise verdict? And then additionally, Victoria George, not only talking about her own reaction, but also, I'm sure, more than confident, she talked about a lot of the general consensus reactions of other jurors throughout that whole trial, what stuck, what didn't. And it was great to see the defense. They really tailored their approach this time. And again, I thought they did a perfect approach the first time, was that verdict slip. But I'm still, to this day, upset about how that first trial ended because of that issue with count 1 and count 3 that were basically, by that jury's result, not guilty. And then here we go. They even fought it up at the appellate court, last fall. And it's like, no. The Judge Canoni got it right. It's like, you can't be serious.
Yeah.
Come on.
Wow. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yep.
It's crazy.
This thing should have been a trial about count 2, and that was it. Never mind 1 and 3, but they brought that all on the board. And how much money? I don't know who's from Norfolk County, who's not in here. How much taxpayer money was spent? Yeah, I know.
A lot of taxpayer money.
It's geez, yeah, it is.
I think that people that don't pay attention to it, that like my dad, for instance, paying, like that to know where it's going, because that's not what they're, they should be doing. Older people don't even know.
And then when your taxes go up, it's because of wasted money like this.
Right. When their retirement goes down.
Yep. Right. And that's why I always say, and you've all heard me talk about this on my live streams. I think everybody gets very worried about every 4 years who the president's going to be. You all have the opportunity to change your communities. Go out and vote for people that actually want to take care of your community. And if the people that are in, like we've seen in Canton all these years, and look at the change they've made now, because 100%. They've got out and actually took action in their community. This is something, I'm going to be honest with you, this is something that I'm going to start paying attention to in my hometown. I'm sure that if I start peeling back layers there's probably a lot of this shit that's been going on in my town too. So, I mean, I'm going to start getting involved in my local stuff and really look at, like, who are the candidates who are the people that are running my community? Do my views and values line up with this? Where's all the wasteful spending? Who's our police chief? What are they doing to, curb, crime or do community outreach programs? This is important stuff. I mean, look at, and I always say the snake, Michael Morsi, that head of the snake needs to go, and I've been talking about this too. And I'll be critical of it. If you're someone, and I'm going to look into the camera, if you are someone that is running against Michael Morsi, if you're going to start your campaign now, you are late. You had opportunities to go out and meet all of these people in Norfolk County, your voters that are going to vote for you to get in. You had opportunities to go out to all these standouts. It wasn't like one of these standouts. You could have went to the website
Right.
and saw when these stand out. Go out and shake hands and say, look, I'm running against Michael Morsi.
Right.
We need to take care of this problem. I'm tired of seeing, he did something to screw, Michael Morsi did something to screw up. I'm going to release a press release. Well, good. Words are something, but get out and prove action.
I just wanted to make a quick comment to everyone that's here. I just noticed the chat was having trouble hearing anyone that's making a longer comment. So if you just want to go to the mic, that would be great. Yeah, for questions or comments. Yeah. Because what happens is we're interacting, and then the crowd can't hear it. So they're saying in the chat, they're like, we can't hear them. So that's okay. Just wanted to let you guys know.
But I just keep really, I'm angry. I'm disappointed. We need a stronger candidate in Norfolk County to take on Michael Morsi, because this could just be another shoe-in again.
Yeah.
And then what are we going to do? Continue to keep having, have this happen, and we may lose someone else's life, and someone else might be you that gets framed for it. It needs to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I think that's what the thing about Karen Reed that was so relatable. I had no clue. My mom's older sister, who I just saw for the first time in a while recently, she's like, Karen Reed, she starts talking about Karen Reed, and she didn't even know I was doing the Mazda Media thing. And it was just like, I'm like, my aunt's paying attention to this, and she's all up in arms. She's like, they framed her, and what they did to her was this, and that. I started laughing. It was just funny because, again, it just seems like every person with a functioning mind, is believing in Karen Reed's innocent. And then, of course, for those 5% or less people that don't have functioning minds, well, they believe Karen Reed's guilty. So that's how that works. So
yeah, it was odd. Like one time I remember going into work, and I think my boss started kind of figuring out what I do outside of work. And he said to me one time, as like the trial was going on, I think he said something like, I think he saw I had one of those, the free Karen Reed bands, and I have it at home still, but I was wearing it, and he looked really quick, and I didn't even know that he knew about it. And he looked at me, he goes, Karen Reed, he goes, fucking crazy what they're trying to do to her. And I was like, wow, like my boss knows about it.
Right. Yeah. It's like everybody started to know about it. It was wild. It was just like, it's incredible, but that's great. But like I said, on top of that is that the general mind, the functioning mind, always saw Karen Reed's innocence, because when you look at the story, I mean, some people out there would just look at it and be like, well, I don't know if she did it or not. Well, if that's the case, if that's how you feel, then you really haven't looked at this for more than 5 minutes. Because I think if anybody looks at this thing for more than 5 minutes and really starts to think it through, because it didn't take me long reading Turtle Boy's blog, and I went back and did my side research on it. I'm like, okay, this is all, I already believed in her innocence and Turtle Boy immediately, but I always double check, because I like to just fact check, everything. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, this is a frame job. This is definitely, a lot of people are in on this. And then you look at a lot of these people's connections. Yeah. So-and-so knows so-and-so who knows such and such. And they all try to tell you, well, there's no way 500 people were involved in this. Well, I don't think it's like a mass thing where everybody's like all in this central circle together. It's more like a person who knows a person who knows a person who knows a person. And there's all these different tree branches that are branching off, and everybody's doing a little fair. That's how I always perceived it. That's how I think it all makes sense, because that's always been the biggest counter from the other folks on the other side is, well, how could so many people be involved in this? And they've tried to use that argument. When you look at it all, though, it makes a lot of sense, because nothing that Karen Reed's accused of doing did make sense. And it doesn't make sense that, people that maybe own the house, that have a position of power and responsibility, or maybe in their house and not responding or even noticing that there's so many first responders out in their front of their property out there. And they're just saying, oh, well, I slept through it. And I don't know how many times people butt dial in here, but I don't butt dial very much.
I roll around on my phone all the time.
I mean, butt dialing 39 times or whatever it was, those are rookie numbers.
I mean, I have woken up. I have woken up because at night I put my phone next to my head and I'll listen to like a podcast. And I'll wake up in the morning and I'm like, how did my phone get down near my butt? Right. I don't know. Maybe I was butt dialing.
Exactly. Well, I tend to get concerned. Most of my friends butt dial me at least 20 times each a night. And sometimes I message my friends. I'm like, you only butt dialed me 17 times last night. Are you okay?
Well, if they're butt dialing, that means, right? They're talking shit.
Yeah. No.
So let me ask you, what was it for you when you first looked at this? The one thing we know, 227, we know the dog bites. What was it for you that was the sticking point when we went, wait a minute, this is not adding up?
The Google search being verified by You know, what was it again? I always forget. Cellbrite.
Yeah.
Cellbrite verifying the Google search. Once I saw that, because I looked at all this stuff and I was kind of starting to piece it together. And all of a sudden I saw the Google search. I was like, okay, wow. That's what kind of
2:27 a.m. was for you.
That's what stuck for me. And then I kind of started to evolve from there. And that's when I was still new to it. But I looked at that Google search. I'm like, okay, they're saying a Google search took place for Haas Long to die in the cold. And that's what really started to make me do more research, because I don't think if I hadn't read that, I would have been like, well, possibly, maybe, maybe not. But when I read that Google search, I'm like, okay, I see why Turtle Boy is covering this so much. And like I said, I followed him for a long time, and I saw him, you know, his stories over the years were kind of here, you know, a couple different stories, a couple different topics, even in the same day. But I noticed about him and his trends was that was every post, everything was just Karen. I'm like, wow. And like I said earlier, seeing him on the courthouse steps with all those people was like, this is something different. I need to look into this and read into this a little bit more and see what's going on. And when I did, I was like, okay, the more I read, the more I started to understand, and the more I looked at. And I think that's what's common for everybody, no matter how you heard about it, through Turtle Boy or through, you know, a friend, you know, or just reading stuff on the news. I know a lot of people had just, you know, like my aunt, she's like, I heard about it every day on the news. And, you know, it was just, that's what it was. But
for me, it was the dog bites. When I saw John's arm, that kind of was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Like the Santa taillight did that.
Yeah.
And then finding out about the 2:27 a.m. and that kind of was the cherry on top. I say, wait, why would someone be Googling this if they're saying that they don't have anything to do with it?
Right.
Or, you know, oh, it was the next morning and it was the tab that was open. And I mean, it just didn't make sense.
And another thing too is that, you know, what's interesting for me in my own perspective is I always kind of gradually believed in her innocence more and more and more, because that was just as I would learn a fact. And what was shocking to me was I was still believing in her innocence more and more, even right up through the second trial. As passionate and as much as I believed in her innocence, when I started to see those ARCA reenactments, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is making even
Thank
more
God they
sense
did
than
that in
before.
trial too.
I know.
Because I was like, when I heard that they were going to come out and they were going to testify in trial 1, I was excited. And then I was like, we have no demonstration. Like we need to visually show the jury here. What is the possibilities of this? What is the possibility and what is not the possibility? And thank God in trial 2, they had these reenactments to debunk everything. It was like so eye-opening for me. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought personally that it was going to be like digital renderings like that. I thought it was going to be
similar
like
to microdots.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was going to be like a digital rendering, but then they actually went out and got a vehicle and they did their own testing, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Aperture, they wanted blue paint. They wanted Blue Man Group. You know, they're probably thinking Blue Man Group. He's like, you know what I could do is just take the money you've given me, put some blue paint on my arm, and just like, oh my, you know. It was
you
like,
gotta throw yourself into the truck.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw yourself into the truck. That's how it works.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's
crazy.
Just, and I think too, like even like you take the evidence aside, you just look at the quality of the defense's witnesses against the quality of the prosecution's witnesses, and they paled in comparison. ARCA, destroyed Aperture. It was like the greatest sports team ever assembled against like a middle school team. It was maybe even less than middle school, but it was pathetic. Like you got a guy with blue paint putting a vehicle in reverse at like 2 miles per hour. That is the best that you got. You're spending all this money to try to convict an innocent woman and convince all of us that she's innocent. That she's guilty. And then you got blue paint on an arm and a guy going, oh yeah, there it is. And then what did you do in your next test? Well, the next test, we ran it in reverse at 3 miles per hour. And then I was like, oh, it's like, come on.
Or how about this even creepier? He went out and tried to get the same clothes as John. He dressed as John.
That was a big thing for him.
That is creepy. Yeah. That's so creepy. I don't know. That sounds like creep level, super creep level. I don't know. You want to take some questions?
I'm ready for
Does
questions.
anybody have questions? Don't be shy. You're already on camera already. Come up to the microphone and ask us. If not, I think Lauren might.
We got those cards too. If you're feeling shy, we can pass those out. Raise your hand.
Lauren.
Yeah, we'll collect them and send them to you and all that.
Someone have a question? You got to go up on mic though. Lauren's gonna have to jump on my microphone. She'll break it through for everybody here, and then maybe we can get some people up.
Read that first question.
So I actually got a question for me from Allison. It says, "How do you think the role of independent media has evolved over the course of the Karen Read saga?" And I wrote down my thoughts because that's a great question. So I said that the Karen Read case showed how powerful independent media can be because the mainstream media outlets often played it safe or ignored key details or catered to, people who pay them. And the independent creators were the ones who asked the hard questions, shared real-time updates, and gave us all a community to use critical thinking and talk. We weren't afraid, you guys weren't afraid to challenge the official story. And it just proved that independent voices can shape the narrative and change institutions. So that was my answer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm done. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
There you go. There you go. All set.
That was awesome.
Yeah. She was over here like,
Oh,
did you write that response using AI?
She used ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. Lauren. No, it's good. That was a great answer. No,
That's awesome.
no, independent media is, like you always say, is the future.
It's the future.
It is, and it's becoming
It's my
that way.
tagline.
You know, it's been, I think people are lost a lot of trust in a lot of national media, because I think the thing is too, national media only has so much time to cover a lot of the local stories. Even like, I thought Boston 25 and NBC 10 were very thorough in their coverage of Karen Reed, which I was thankful for. But I think at the time, at the nuts and bolts of it all, I should say, is they only covered it at a surface level. And maybe
There's always a
Ted
filter.
Daniels, Ted Daniels went a little bit deeper than everybody else.
But there's always a filter.
There's always a filter.
It's called
Right.
a producer.
Correct. But I think like with our shows or anybody else's shows that's been content creators, we all have our content creators we all follow. And you know, I think all of those shows allowed us to go deeper. Todd McGee and Adam. You know, we have everyone that, you know, we have people from police, Nan, we have police background, we have people with legal backgrounds, you know, Mark Betterow and you know, Nan Gallagher, like you said, Melanie Little, that have been out there. And it's like we got different voices, which is great. And I think too, for me, like not being someone that comes from a police background or a legal background, it was good a lot of times as someone that's really just an average guy with a very big mouth about opinions on things, to have someone that can come on my show, like a law guy or a law person, law woman, and come on the show and talk about, you know, what their opinions are and kind of validate it. And it was always very refreshing to me to say, well, here's my theory. And I've heard DeGlare say this many times. He'll have a theory on something, and then I'll have an attorney able to say, yeah, you're right. That's exactly here. This is exactly what it is, but let's validate that for you in legal terms and all that, which I thought was very huge as well. And it was very intriguing to see a lot of people with legal backgrounds get involved in this, because it was, as you saw, Robert Alessi and Mark Betterow, who've both been participants in either the Karen Reed case or the Turtle Boy case. And I was also very disappointed Mark Betterow didn't get on this team, because I felt that he's not only great, but I felt that he earned a spot, and the judge to shoot him down, I thought was very insulting in terms of, you know, not only that, but I'm sure she was very afraid of him because he knew his stuff in and out, and he would have brought a lot to the table, as we're seeing him do right now with Hayden Carney's case and the job he's doing with attorney Tim Bradel and getting that all done. But it's, I was sad for Mark. But at the same time, you know, with Mark, you almost needed two Mark Betterows. You needed one Mark Betterow on the Karen Reed defense team. You needed another one actually on shows all the time. So we could give our opinion every night, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, the way that I look at it, and I'm going to kind of piggyback off Mark, you know, you look at mainstream media, you know, the filtering that's gone through. I mean, even if you just go to like the two big ones, Fox and CNN, you see that dynamic pull on both sides, but there's so much filtering because there's producers, there's executive producers that are calling the shots. And I think a lot of people are turning to YouTube and channels like this because they want unfiltered media. You're all shaking your heads. Yes. You know,
there's one person shaking their head no over there somewhere.
I mean,
someone's like, no, I don't. Someone's like,
you're going to get the real, you're going to get the real story here. You know, you're going to get the video of us being down there and seeing, you know, possibly something happening in real time. And it's not going to go through 4 different filters. And then you're going to get the story when we're out there live streaming or shooting live video and then just bringing it to our channel unfiltered. You're seeing what's really happening. And there's such a dynamic in all of that too. What's produced with an executive versus someone that's raw with a camera. And, you know, to be able to give that ability and show people. And, you know, I think a lot of that, you know, for me, started to open my eyes and, you know, going back to 2020 with COVID time, you know, seeing the dynamic of all of that and what was really going on versus what really wasn't. And, you know, that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And I said, wait a minute, you know, this is kind of strange. You know, maybe some of these people have this right on an unfiltered channel.
Yeah, I know. On an unfiltered channel, it's great.
I've had it 4 times and it's not fun. So
yeah. That's
fun.
not good at all. Yeah, well, I think what's great about an unfiltered channel is, again, we can tell you about John DePetro and what he did in the parking lot that day. They're not going to talk about that. You were there? Yeah.
That's so crazy.
So, yeah.
I can't believe that.
John DePetro is not going to talk about that on Fox, Boston 25. Like, today, a man did a taillight test in the parking lot and then denied it. It's just, that was wild when that happened. And a lot of people probably watched that live. Like, why is that one guy getting booed walking out the front steps there? And it's just, oh my goodness. It was just wild having those other, I guess, independent journalists like him and many others that were just so convinced Karen Read was guilty. And a lot of times they just had really no weight behind it all. And that's just you talk about balanced arguments. Like, I always had people say, well, you guys aren't looking at it from both sides. I disagree. I am looking at it from both sides. I've always had a two-way of looking at a thing. I'll even question myself and say, is what I'm saying 100% accurate? Can I make such a claim on a show unless that's absolutely information I can back up? I don't want to sit there and say, like even in sports, I'm not going to say, well, I think that the Indiana Pacers are going to win the championship next year, even though their best player just got hurt and is not even playing next year, because that wouldn't make a lot of sense. You have to have a valid reason to believe in your argument. And that's a sports analogy, but it's the same thing with this. You have to not only believe in what you're saying, but know that what you're saying has weight to it and a balance to it. And I've just, like I said, I even when I was new to this, I'd always say, well, is it possible she did? Because a lot of times trolls would come at me and say, well, she did it right. And I'd make an argument. I'd say, well, I wouldn't say it publicly, but I'd say, I'm going to look into their argument. I'm going to look into exactly what they're countering me with. I'm going to look into exactly. So I would sit there on Google and look at other resources and look at the data and say, could this anti-Karen Read person be correct? Because I like to be objective and analytical. So after about 3 months of doing that and realizing that they were wrong every single time when I was newer, I just realized I wasn't going to pay much attention to what they were going to say. I was still trying to figure out anti-Karen Read for a while and learn the stuff. So,
and then, look at, even I'll just put this in, look at all the things that they put in place to filter us out. The buffer zone.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let people like myself get a press pass and go in. I mean, that right there is shaping the narrative too. That's shaping the narrative too.
Well, you look.
I mean, of course.
Well, not only that, you look at the people that were able to get in there. Anti-Karen Reads were able to get in there almost on a consistent basis. So I was already one of the people. It's like the media lottery is rigged, and so right away they have Aiden and Jen Machado, I believe, go in the first week, and I'm like, well, there goes my argument now about the lottery being rigged. And then all of a sudden, like, it was 3 or 4 weeks later, and Aiden on his show's like, it's me and Jess haven't been in there in 3 or 4 weeks. I'm like, okay, that lottery rigging conspiracy theory I had, the randomizer. Yeah, the
Brand
randomizer.
puts in every time.
Yeah.
How does that even happen?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
It's so random, right?
A towel?
Oh, I'm good.
You're good.
Does anybody have questions? Step up to the microphone. Yeah.
There we go. We got some questions. Line up. Yeah. You can line up if you want to line up. Okay.
I know it's a lot. Sandra Birchmore. It's more than one question, but tomorrow it's continued again.
Yep.
So we were going to go with Mizzy to stand out, and of course now we're not. But I'm hoping that they're waiting for more ties to help the case from Karen's case, because it seems that way. But I don't know your thoughts on that.
I think a lot of it, and maybe the lawyer here in the room can probably, but I think a lot of it.
There is the lawyer, and then there's the lawyer that's with us today. Okay.
I mean, I think a lot of it is just a lot of legal crap that goes on behind the scenes to delay, and motions. I mean, we've seen this, and we've even seen it in Karen's case as well, too. A lot of the delaying, not getting discovery. I mean, look at Miles King. 6 search warrants. 6 search warrants that took years that they still haven't gotten to have proper evidence in that case, and that case might get. That might get dismissed. I mean, I'm only speculating, but there's going to be problems in that case. There's going to be problems, but I think a lot of that is just it's a lot of legal back and forth BS.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I'm happy Karen's civil team is trying to get information about Nan too, because it'll be interesting to see what they can get for Karen's case that ties in to help prove what has happened to Karen, because there's obviously a lot of stuff that's gone on that's been corrupt. And we saw the Sandra Birchmore footage of the guy, walking in. It's like, this is just absolutely insane.
Yeah, how do you not believe that guy didn't do that? Are you serious? Yeah. Like, I'm like, that dude totally killed her.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's blatantly
Farwell totally killed her.
Did.
I mean, when I saw that, I'm like, the guy's running out of there.
Right.
Like, he's like, you can see him running.
No, yeah, Matthew Farwell's walking in, and you see him. It's like, come on. I mean,
Who goes in a COVID mask and a
right,
hoodie and all that
right.
stuff? It's insane.
100%.
Insane.
And again, it's what's crazy too is that, and this goes back to the Karen Reed case too. Any cover-ups or corruption that happened was done because those people in a position of power believed that if they did what they did, they believed they could get away with it. And I think that's the scariest thing about all this is that they believe, whether it's Matthew Farwell or other people that are involved in Karen Reed's cover-up, they did what they did because they believed that there's a chance they could get away with it, because they believed they had the resources and the people that they could tie into. And that's scary. That's a scary thought. And it makes me think again, I said this earlier and I'll say it again because it bears repeating. How many times has this stuff gone on in the state or country and we don't even know about it because they got away with it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the best thing that could have happened was, and I hate to say this, but Karen's case happening and Karen fighting for the truth to say, look, I didn't do this, but what she did was, and I always call this the Wizard of Oz moment. It was like the Wizard of Oz. Don't look at the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Well, she was the one that pulled the curtain back, and you actually saw who the real Oz was.
Right. Yeah.
So,
right.
Has to be some good.
Yeah.
Has to be
Yeah.
some good.
But just keep in mind too, I mean, with all these delays, it's only going to help in evidence gathering too. So you can get more information out of this. Yeah, of course. Question?
Oh, I just had a comment to your thing about how like people didn't think we saw both sides. My only response to that is, please let me have you sign a waiver and I'll back up with my car and hit you at 24 miles per hour. And then you can let me know and I will see your side.
Yeah.
So that was just my comment.
No, yeah.
You were saying how I'm like, maybe a lawyer can help. No, I will hit you with my car. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes things need to be taken to extreme, but we don't recommend it.
Yeah. I might
That's why the
waiver's involved.
Yeah, with the waiver, but I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
see that same. I'm like, that's the only way you see your side.
Yeah.
That doesn't add up mathematically, physically. An AP physics class would do better than aperture. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I really have a
100%.
question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
my name is Patty Lima. I want
Hi.
to make a comment about how has this gone on so long? When is it going to end? And it's such a bad example for these kids. That Devers, whatever her name is,
Veruca Saltz.
is what 20, what
Veruca Saltz.
about 26 years old,
Yeah.
and they're not afraid of anything. They're up there blatantly lying.
Yeah.
And nothing is happening.
Yeah.
3.5 years for Karen. This is unbelievable. I bet every woman in here, including myself, would do the exact same thing Karen did.
Yeah.
We all went to high school with a Jen McCabe.
Yeah.
I know I did. I know I did. And I want to, if I can direct a question.
Of
to
course.
Todd, do you think that Michael Proctor is going to get his job back?
Yeah. Thank you, Todd. Yeah.
We have Todd McGee in the house, by the way. Todd, you're a little tall, so you might have to bend down a little bit for the microphone.
Let's
but-
talk, everybody.
Todd McGee, gentlemen.
So there are some procedural things that happen after termination. He's going through those procedural things. Here's the key issue with Proctor. He testified to wrongdoing under oath. How do you advocate for yourself after that? I just honestly don't see how he can have a strong enough defense to be able to say, I deserve my job back. Now, what you could see is a settlement from time of suspension without pay until his actual termination. And that's just basic negotiation. That doesn't mean he's been reinstated by any means. But for financial gain, financial reasons, that could be an argument that he could try and go for. The other issue is he's on this public campaign and it's not really helping him. So again, we all can say there was a lot of media that was used in the second trial. It would behoove people to maybe take the fifth and not put themselves out there. It hasn't moved the needle in his favor. Here's the next thing. We covered this a number of times on Brian's show. No pension for Proctor.
Yep. Keep that in
No
mind.
pension.
There's
All right.
no pension.
He had to serve 20 years of service to be able to be eligible. Now think about the system. We get state employees retiring all the time. You need an employee to put into the system 20 years worth of capital in order to sustain the retirement system down the line forever. Amen. All right. So again, that I want to, we set the level straight on that a number of times.
Yep.
Which was great for that. But getting the job back, I don't see it.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing that scares me, I
Can-
have loud voice, maybe people.
Yeah, we have your
Yeah,
first
come
mic.
up to the mic because the
Thank you,
people
thank
in
you,
the
yeah.
stream won't be able to hear you.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Thank
hon.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
The thing that's bothered me over the past 3.5 years, not that things haven't come up before this, but this has just been so huge and something that I just had to be a part of. Because we know it could be any of us. The thing that scares me though is we think they should be gone. We think, and then we'll see him get his job back. That's the scary part. Just like in the first trial, I couldn't believe Karen was not found not guilty. You know what I mean? And then had to go through it again. So nothing seems to ever end, is what I'm saying. It's such a
It's unchecked
circus.
accountability, and it all starts at the top. And that's why I say you need to make the difference in getting Michael Morrissey out of that seat.
I don't.
And
live
that's
in
why I
Norfolk
sit here.
County. Do you have-
Yeah, and I'm just speaking to the people in Norfolk County,
right,
but
right,
this is
yeah.
where we have to start.
Yeah.
Because look, all the people under him that have all his underlings that I call them, they're the ones that have caused all this problem, and he's allowed them to do it.
I know, but why can't we get rid of him? Like
We
before
can't. We have an opportunity to vote him
but
out.
before another
Right.
election. He should not be there
Yeah.
for what this is. What has
I
happened.
agree. Politics. That's all it is. It's politics. It's scary stuff.
I mean,
You
it
think-
started out with what I remember was John O'Keefe was hit by a bus.
Mhm.
And then I didn't hear anything for, I don't know how long it was before she went to trial. And I think, like everybody else, you look at Karen, yeah, we all look like a bitch. We all can, you know what I mean? But if you look at what the evidence was, how can anyone not come to the conclusion that she's not guilty?
Of course.
And here we go now.
Because
with
you
the
know why?
civil-
We're smart and rational people. That's why. And there's a lot.
But even so, why can't the civil trial be knocked out? Why are they
Lawyers.
doing that?
Lawyers. Can you speak to
Oh
that?
no, he's the best lawyer.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Adam Tiefer. People
Adam Tiefer.
Lawyers. Just
Hi,
get up on the
guys.
microphone, Adam. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you.
No, this is not legal advice.
No, it's not
So-
Not legal advice.
The issue here, to address a couple of things, how can it go unchecked for so long, is that police and politicians, they all have a level of qualified immunity. And I think, and with all due respect to Todd being a retired trooper, there has been too much immunity at times, and they've gone unchecked and unbalanced for so long that they are not used to being questioned. They're not used to having to answer to anything. Since I'm live on YouTube, if Brian would appease me for a second, I have a perfect example of this. In the last couple days, I have reached out to the town of Shrewsbury after there was a very well publicized incident regarding an animal and a police officer doing what he shouldn't do. And the town of Shrewsbury's town manager decided to take shots at me and some wildlife rehabbers on their own YouTube page, saying that I should not have the ability to speak at a town council meeting for accountability, and saying that I am just looking for my 15 minutes of fame on CCTV, that if I wanted to talk to them, I could talk to them in a private meeting behind closed doors. They don't want accountability. They don't want to be challenged in the public eye. And they're so used to being able to get away with that. And then when you do go to court and you challenge police action, they can rely on qualified immunity, saying we did this within our job. And then the burden to get past that qualified immunity is so high that 9 times out of 10, you can't get past it. And they say, well, they did their jobs. They did this, they did that. On the other side of that, with Michael Morrissey, you have what they call prosecutorial discretion. This is something that the state statutorily gives them, that they can choose whether to bring forth claims, and they can choose if they don't want to bring forth claims. and you can't challenge that. I was actually part of a case while I was a law school student and an intern trying to challenge the attorney general on prosecutorial discretion, and they didn't want to hear it. And we as attorneys, we have something called litigation privilege, and it makes it hard to challenge the actions of attorneys when they do take decisions in court that may be fraudulent, but not necessarily on their face. And the burden to get past the litigation privilege allows even some attorneys that wiggle room where they're not used to being challenged. And then if you bring something like we have here in Massachusetts something called the 231-6F motion. That's a statute. Chapter 231-6F allows us to file a motion for attorney's fees, court costs, etc., when there's knowingly frivolous cases going on. Something that if, in Karen's civil case, if they find that there were frivolous claims being made and you're extending legal costs for no reason, they could seek these at the end. But then you have to go in and you'll have an evidentiary hearing going through to meet that burden where you have to show that the attorney engaged in frivolous and unlawful conduct and they brought forth claims. It's unchecked accountability that's gone on for so long from the bottom all the way to the top, that there is a wide variety of people here that are not used to being questioned on what they do. And they're so used to getting away with it that I think Karen Reed's trial and now Aiden's trial are perfect examples of the public finally waking up and you guys all learning stuff that we deal with that on a daily basis and being more aware that can help you guide yourself in new elections to make sure this doesn't happen, to start questioning your local police departments, to start questioning your local district attorneys, and all the way to the top to question the attorney general, to question your governor, to question your mayors. It's important for the public to realize that these things do happen and that change is needed, because we can only do so much in the courts. It's you guys that are voting for your leaders, that are voting for your state representatives, that are voting for your senators. You are in complete control of who you're putting into positions that can make these changes. So now that you guys, are aware and you're paying attention, this is how change starts.
Yeah.
It all starts with you.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Thank you, Adam.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm Doreen. I'm
Nice to meet
actually
you.
here with the Northshore Nacho group.
Everybody hear it.
There's a lot of us here.
Did you guys bring nachos?
We did
with
not.
you?
But they also have buffalo chicken dip.
All
Okay.
right, there you go.
We started meeting weekly to support Karen, and we raised over $30,000 for Karen.
Wow.
And so we actually last week had a turtle napping. Right out of the basket, someone turtle napped who we call Teeny. And we've already raised $500 in ransom that will go towards next week. We still haven't gotten Teeny back, but we're on the process. We're waiting for the next ransom notice. And I just wanted to invite everyone on the 11th. We'll be there again, and we'll be actually splitting between Karen and Turtle Boy.
Awesome.
So, yeah, JJ Grimsby's in Stoneham.
Yeah.
So come join us.
Do you believe the person that took the turtle is holding it for ransom?
Yeah. In 24 hours, we raised $500, which
Wow,
is crazy.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a good group.
Oh my
So
goodness.
fun bunch.
Awesome.
Well, when does the North Shore Nacho group meet? Mondays, Tuesdays?
We meet now bi-weekly, so it's every 2 weeks for the summer. Monday nights at 6:00 at JJ Grimsby's in Stoneham.
Nice.
Awesome.
Awesome.
There's a
Congratulations.
huge group. It's
Awesome.
amazing.
I got to get up there sometime.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, that's awesome. All right.
Let's do a quick pause for my commercial. My sponsor here, the Star Drive-In. I'm going to just play a commercial about 1 minute and 22 seconds. Need a break from modern life? We'll travel back in time to the Star Drive-In. That's East Taunton's iconic retro hotspot. Fun for the whole family. Enjoy great food, entertainment, and timeless memories. They got free community events all season long, including movies under the stars, live music and tailgating, Jeep meets, classic car shows, and bike nights. While you're there, indulge in over 100 flavors of soft serve, 80 flavors of Bliss and Gifford's hard ice cream, plus a rotating selection of 10 flavors of Dole Whip. The Star Drive-In is not your average fast food place. Everything is made fresh to order using quality ingredients. Fresh seafood is delivered daily, and pizza dough made twice a day for maximum freshness. I love their pizza. The Star Drive-In, where food, fun, and family memories never go out of style. They're conveniently located at 205 Myrick Street in East Taunton. That's exit 16 off Route 140. Make sure to visit their website or follow them on Facebook for their latest menus and upcoming events. And hey, while you're there, say hi to Erica and her team. And if you mention LTL at the register, you'll receive 10% off your entire purchase. That's the Star Drive-In in East Taunton. It's the most iconic retro hotspot. Half the room is out. It's okay. We're on a break. Everybody went on a break. It's fine. They're all eating pizza
They're all
and
eating pizza
candy
back there, yeah.
No, this has been great.
Yeah.
And again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Again, this is the first time that I ever put anything together like this, and it's been a lot of fun so far. We're gonna keep doing it. Yeah. I want to get it into a bigger space now, you know, but it logistically it was a lot. I was here at like 7 o'clock in the morning setting everything up. Yeah, we got up early. The guy called me. He said, I'm gonna be there to drop off the table and chairs at 7. So I got up at 5:30 today. We went to the Star last night. I got up at 5:30 today and got myself ready and dragged myself over here. I was tired.
Wow.
I'm sitting here and the guy didn't show up at 7. Of course, she shows up at 8. So, but we're here and we got everything set up. And Lauren helped me do a lot today. She brought all the chairs up. We got the table set up. So she got her cardio and her workout today. And so, yeah.
Lauren did a lot of great work today. I saw her setting up the chairs, organizing the chairs, all that stuff today too. Just
and then someone
sure
suggested stadium seating, and I said, this is going to work a little bit better.
Yeah, we had them all lined up, and then we kind of rearranged them and kind of
everything,
adjusted it that way everyone could see and everything.
was
which
great.
Great. So
It was great.
how's the pizza over there, anyways?
Good.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
That's great. I'm glad everybody's having a lot of fun.
Yeah. Denim House of Pizza must have loved all the customers.
Oh my God.
During that trial.
Oh my God. All right, let's do this. While we got a little bit of pause here, I'm going to recognize some people on the chat. Let's see. FSUMSW93 has become a new member. Thank you so much for being a member here on the LTL media channel. I appreciate that. MM126 has become a new member. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Brenda, thank you. New membership. Being a new member and supporting LTL media. I appreciate that. And Gigi's got the silver bracelet ready to become a new member. I appreciate that as well. Deborah, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. I appreciate that. And we have Tsunami, $2, a moderator, a friend, hilarious. He said, I remember LTL raffle off a can of corn. Yes, I remember when we did that because we were chasing a escaped prisoner in where was that? Pennsylvania, and his last name was Cavalcante, and something came out. I said can of corn or something like that, and I ended up signing a can of corn, and I ended up doing a raffle, a giveaway for it. So I literally physically sent out a can of corn to someone with my signature.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Who would have ever thought? Star Drive-In. Let's talk about that for a second. What's your favorite menu item at the Star Drive-In?
The pizza.
Okay.
I love the pizza.
Steak and cheese sub for me.
It's so
onion
good.
rings are fantastic.
And I had French fries. I had French fries, a frap. What did you get last night, Star? Grilled cheese.
Okay.
Yeah. Grilled cheese.
All right.
Yeah, the grilled cheese fries.
You guys got ice cream?
I had the frap.
Okay. The close enough. That works. Yeah.
Yeah. How many people in here have been to the Star before? Look at it's half the room. Look at
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, just say LTL, you get 10% off at the window. Yeah, or BLT. Actually, Erica made me a BLT pizza last night. It was pretty funny. So.
Yeah. Here's your order, sir. I didn't order a BLT, but you are BLT.
Yes.
So you get a BLT. There we go. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Please, you have a
right.
bunch. Awesome. We have a bunch of available people here.
Hey, I'm Steph.
Steph.
I just wanted to respond to your question of like, when does it stop? Like, in addition to what Adam said, like, we also have a chance here for our judges to like step up in these big high profile cases and like make the hard decisions that aren't necessarily going to be so popular with the police. Like Judge Fernier just had a good chance where like she could have really taken that and ran with it. And like, she kind of dropped the ball, but like we have Judge Krupp coming up who seems willing and able to, and also like Judge Doolin and Aiden's cases to like, you know, change the direction, like put some fear in the police officers' hands. Like, let them know that like, we see you. Like this isn't going to fly for much longer.
Yeah, I hope that starts happening. I mean, because again, you know, I say that, you know, as much as a shitty situation is, and and someone lost their life, you know, John O'Keefe lost his life, but Karen going through this whole process and not just saying, okay, I'll go away. What was it? The Vanity Fair article said, we'll give you 2.5 years, just go away.
Yeah.
And then all this goes away. And she's like, I'm not going to admit to something that I didn't do.
Right.
And she fought and fought and fought and fought and continued to fight. I mean, look at all the odds that were against her.
And
through this whole
honestly,
thing.
if like Michael Morrissey, if he were smart, he would have chosen not to like press these charges because it opened
Pandora's box.
everybody's eyes
It
to all the
opens
corruption and
Pandora's
all the
box.
ineptitude being not performed.
But
Yeah.
now with this opening up again, it's awakened all of the eyes, people in this room, in this state, around the world. Look at all the people that jumped in and got in tune to this case around the world. And they're like, something's going on here. And the thing is when you have a case like this and people really start getting in tune with it, it's that domino effect. And again, it now starts questioning things in your community. And you have every right. You have every natural born right to question things. We can do that. You know, we're seeing a lot of that. I just started covering the Long Island audit case with Sergeant Fahey. Look at, he just retired. And we just went through and looked at that chart where it was like 2018, this guy got $6,000 in overtime. And then a year later, he's at $90,000 of overtime, and it's been consistent since 2019. And all Sean did was go out and ask questions. Can you tell me how this is happening? How are you getting this overtime? And look what happened. He gets his face spit in and a gun held to him. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And he got to retire.
Yeah. Well,
Come on.
right. But I think and Todd and I are going to do a program
you.
about this, but I think from my research, again, it might come to a 20-year thing. I don't know what the Connecticut statute is as far as what they have, but from what I'm understanding, it's only going to be a percentage, but it shouldn't even be anything. I mean, this guy should have been taken off the force a long time ago. He doesn't have the tolerance for this type of job to police the community. And it's scary that someone like that with that tolerance or non-tolerance is out there with a badge and a gun. And I said this all along. You know, Todd was on the stream, Nan was on the stream, Adam, we had some streams about this. Can you imagine if Sean didn't have a camera there that day, how different this situation would have been? And I'm only going to speculate here. Sean and his cameraman, or the guy that was with him, could have ended up dead. And then what do we know? Just like in the Karen Reed's case, what happens to ring cam footage? It gets erased, or it didn't, you know, nothing recorded that day or that night. We know that would have happened, and it probably would have been a justified thing, because Fahey would have turned around and said, he attacked me. Maybe punches himself in the face and say he punched me. Yeah. So
No, it was a scary situation. The fact that he walked out of that house, if you're familiar with his gun already in his hand, it wasn't like it was holstered. He would have had the right to carry if it was in his holster. But you know, the gun's in hand, that's an immediate threat. And at that point, it creates a lot of gray areas, and definitely is something that's really unbecoming of a police officer, really anybody that's a citizen in that regard. But it's a life-threatening situation. It got really ugly, and I think most people agree that the fact that they were recording that was a lifesaver to some degree.
Yeah, and I mean, and you look at it in the fact of I just lost my train of thought. But anyway,
We have a question coming up here. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Nan's in the chat, by the way. So everybody say hi to Nan. Nan said, she said, I just want to say hello to all my nacho and bros. Great seeing you all. So good to see you, Nan.
Yeah.
By the
See you,
way.
Nan.
Question.
It's more of an observation that I had a long time ago when the Karen Reed story first came out, and this is actually towards you, Mr. McGee. One of the things that after going through the court filings and what have you, that never made sense to me was no one had any sympathy or empathy for Karen that morning. Like all of you, like if you think about it, that happens in front of your house, you're in law enforcement or you're a relative of law enforcement. No one ever said, oh my God, where's Karen? Who's going to the hospital with her? Who's setting up the mail train? Go guard the house, what have you. And
Can you
I
just
know
come up
it's
a little
probably-
closer to the
Oh,
mic?
sorry.
Yeah.
It's probably not in any police handbook or whatever, but I know myself 35 years ago, a friend of mine was in an accident. She was in the hospital. Her sister was Mass State Police. There was a guard outside her door the entire time she was in the hospital. We, the friends, were walked to and from our cars to the parking garage. And that was just the sister of a. So I can't imagine being the long-term girlfriend of a state trooper found dead. I mean, a police officer found dead. Is that the protocol? Or not to put you on the spot, but just like that just never made sense. Like that to me was admission of guilt that morning.
Todd McGee, by the way, everybody.
So great observation. And there are accommodations that police departments will make in certain circumstances. Doesn't matter if it's a municipality or a state agency, but that accommodation is out of compassion.
They can hear him.
And that accommodation is to just, if nothing else, a temporary support system, right? For someone that's going through a very traumatic event. Not uncommon.
So again, they were guilty that morning.
Mm-hmm. I always thought it was bizarre that, you know, because I know how my mom is, and and God forbid, if I ever was dead on someone's front lawn and dragged out there and left for dead, I know the first thing that she would do, she would have been immediately over at that house the next day, knocking on the door and going, what the hell happened to my son? Not just like, you know, listen to everybody and going, oh yeah, well, she must have hit him and that's what we're going to roll with here. I would be knocking on the door. But again, it goes back to all of those, you know, intricate ties of all those people together. And then, you know, and just believing that narrative and not really believing the truth. So,
yeah, let's just, something I really don't want to comment on too much, but yeah, it's just, I just find it hard to believe that anyone could possibly believe that a vehicle driving in reverse killed John O'Keefe.
Yeah.
It just doesn't add up. The math don't math. The facts don't line up. When you put the pieces of the puzzle back together, they don't add up. That's for sure. And I know we were at an event, and I'll just say one of the attorneys happened to say their reaction to how they felt about the story when they first heard about it, and their reaction was, "You got to be kidding me!
yeah,
Is this for real? Is this really a case?" And you know, that's just one of the stories I heard. But it was it's just a wild story, and just through and through. It just everything about it was insane. It was, the frame job was insane. The other side, what they're trying to tell you did or did not happen, was insane. And it just was always total, utter madness through and through. And it's amazing to me how many times when you felt that you could not be shocked anymore by anything,
yeah,
how many times more shocking stuff would come up. It would just be like, now this has come up, and oh, guess what? This person's tied to this person, and this fact has come up, and oh, guess what? This was covered up and not reported. The fact that the local police department kept finding taillight after the fact proved to me one thing. This was a cover up on the fly where they were developing their theories as they went on as to exactly how they were going to cover this thing up. And quote unquote, not that they said this, but someone did, we know who, pin it on the girl. You know, and that's exactly what happened here.
they investigated backwards.
They did.
That's what they did. They investigated backwards. And the sick thing about it is that Michael Proctor in 16 hours had already made his mind up that Karen Reed was the one that did this. That's how sick this is, that he wouldn't even look at the scope of all the evidence and try to piece all this together and say, and not even to say, is there a possibility? Could someone,
Objectiveness.
I don't know. Like for me, I mean, the logical thing is I look at like, okay, they're telling me that someone ended up on the front lawn dead. It's just a natural reaction. I would go up and knock on that friggin' door of the house. I'm trying not to laugh, but I would be like, can I talk to a few people here? Did anybody hear or see anything? Did this person come inside the house? Like, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
But the mind has already been made up.
Yeah.
The minds were already
Yeah,
made up.
and I think that's too. That's more of the evidence where you look at the investigation. I mean, how many people here, show of hands, believe that the door should have been knocked on at 34 Fairview Road? There we go.
Everyone in the room.
Everybody except for one person that didn't want to raise their hand. I'm just kidding. But
It
no,
was Chloe.
seriously.
It was Chloe.
Right. Seriously. And where's the dog? We don't know. Why was a Google search made?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
come on and on and on. You know, and why hasn't Karen Reed got her vehicle back yet? What's going on
Yeah.
there? Do they need to clean it up a little bit more before they get it back there? Because they're worried Karen Reed might have a team ready to go to swab that whole vehicle and they're
yeah.
potentially acid washing the thing. I don't know, but I'm left to speculate because they won't get her vehicle back in a timely fashion. Most people get their cell phone and their vehicles back soon. What's his name? Brian Walsh. Didn't he get his phone back in a matter of time? Yet
Yeah.
Karen Reed, what's going on there? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's all suspicious, and we the people have a right to gripe about that and ask a lot of questions, you know. And again, I think we've always been, it's like I've said this time and time again. We've all said that, all of us have said this time and time again. If Karen Reed did this, produce the ring footage. And if that ring footage shows exactly what you're saying she did, we'll come out
a report
out
right away. Remember,
Yeah.
WZB. Oh, they have camera
Yeah.
footage of it.
Yeah.
Question? Hi.
Sorry to hold you up.
That's okay. Hi, I'm Marissa.
Hi,
Nice to meet you.
Hi. This is more personal. So after seeing Turtle Boy go to jail and then the Long Island audit, does that change how far you would fight for justice?
No, because I'm here today, and I still have a channel, and I still have a lot of things that I need.
There we go. I would elaborate with an answer to continue that answer. I would say it does bother me that someone like Aiden, someone like Sean Paul Reyes, who are journalists that are, you know, essentially allowed to go knock on somebody's door, being treated the way that they are, when you see local media outlets, Boston media outlets, of course, that have knocked on people's doors before, knocked on the doors of businesses before, and then are treated this way. Aiden was thrown in jail for multiple charges, and then then they go out and they tried to manufacture something on him to get him behind bars 2 months after the original arrest in October 2023, right after Christmas. They locked him up. And you see Sean Paul Reyes, who was confronted by, an officer off duty that had a gun in his hand. But it definitely raises questions about why, as a independent journalist, or Aiden Carney and Sean Paul Reyes being treated the way they are, as if they don't have the right to knock on doors asking questions, when news media have historically knocked on people's doors and asked questions. And if they are told to leave, there's no repercussions, such as a officer drawing his weapon and having it in his hand and basically chasing him off, to the point where when the cops, local police, Groton police, do show up, they're ultimately arresting them for recording and calling it voyeurism, which is insane. So I do say this. Does it make me want to back down as an independent journalist? No, but it does want to make me exercise caution. Am I going to sit here and say, do I want to knock on somebody's door and ask a question? Well, it does make me say, to a point, I do want to be careful at which door I knock on, because again, you've seen the way they've done everything they can. And again, this is more specifically against people that have positions of power, state people, powers of police power, or they're in a family that's related to those people that have power, police power. And then you saw an officer, like we said, in Connecticut, do what he did. So definitely raises a lot of concerns, because the issue, I think, that Aiden and Sean Paul Reyes are fighting too is that journalistic credential, which is basically they are journalists. They're not being treated like journalists. They're being called bloggers. And anytime they try to exercise that and ask those questions, it seems like all the walls cave in, come crashing down on them, which I think is absolutely alarming that this is what's happening in this particular avenue that we venture into.
Yeah, and the scary thing about it is you look at Sean Paul Reyes, where Fahey literally says to him, you went online and said you were going to kill my family.
Yeah.
Well, if he felt that he was such a threat, then why wouldn't you just stay in your house and wait until 911 come? I mean, we all saw how long it took Groton police to get there. It was under probably 2 minutes. He knows that they're going to respond that fast, but he wanted to come out and bully him and pull a gun. And that's scary. Yeah, he re-engaged.
Right.
And Todd and I went through that exercise. I'm sorry, Adam and I went through that exercise where we took a couple of Fahey's interaction, and what did he keep doing? Engaging. And yeah, right. And the training is to disengage, bring the level down,
De-escalate.
And he did not do that. De-escalate. Thank
Right.
you.
And the other issue too that I have with that whole situation is taking that Trooper Fahey out of the equivalent, out of the scenario for a moment. Look at the way the Groton police showed up. Was it any different than the way the Canton police have shown up in terms of showing up with prejudice, showing up with bias, showing up with favorability towards whomever is in the position of power, and then at some point acting against that person that was the journalist?
Even the officer said, well, you did go to try to intimidate.
Put yourself in his shoes.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't you look at it more objectively? I walked up to his house. I knocked on the door. After I knocked on the door, I walked off the porch. He came out. He confronted me. He asked me to leave.
Brought his gun.
And while he did kind of gingerly leave. He did kind of take his time. He wasn't the act of leaving or going backwards the entire time until you just stated over, by yourself. Of course, this officer came out of his house a second time, all whatever, with the gun in his hand, talking to the police. Yeah. And it's just, this is, I think too, what's great too for all of us is that these are situations now I think where all of us are paying attention to more, because for a lot of us, people like myself, I was never a true crimer before this. I'd follow criminal stories from time to time, but not to the level I have in the past 2 years, because the Karen Reed case has opened up my eyes to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is all I can think about half the time now. And, and then you see what's happening to Sean Paul Reyes. And I can understand why Aiden wants to talk about this on his channel, because he's like, hey, this is a guy just like me, where the powers that be are coming down on him just for simply knocking on a door, exiting the porch, being told to leave, adhering to that, and while adhering to that, being confronted, and then ultimately arrested.
Yeah. Question? We know that familiar
We
face.
know this
I'm Cheat Savioli. I feel like I'm at the select board.
Please state your name.
Yeah.
Please state your name, and if not, you attend Northshore Nacho Night.
And you're only going to get 30.
And
And you're only going to get 30 seconds.
yeah, Cheat Savioli, yes, we do. And I do run it for Nan when she comes. My question is going back to Karen's car and her phone. My question is in regards to of her receiving that. It's pathetic that they have to put in a motion to receive it back, to get it back.
It's crazy.
My question is there anything that the Commonwealth can keep that from her receiving that? Do anybody know that? Because I think it's pathetic that she doesn't get the car back.
Two
and her phone
motions
back.
have been filed. I don't know why these people think they can. I don't know the logistics of it, but I don't know why they're doing this, other than the fact that to me, I'm thinking suspicious activity
Might
on
be
this.
some activity in there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Are they acid washing the vehicle, or are they, what? There has to be some purpose in why they're holding that. They should be. It should be granted to her. I mean, quite honestly, I think she should have gotten the vehicle back within, I'd say, 7 to 14 days tops.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Right, with the fixed tail. No, seriously, a fixed
And
tail.
her infotainment system's trash too. That
Yeah.
whole
Right.
interior is trash.
Yeah.
I mean,
that-
whether
that
she
whole-
wants the car back or not, and she can auction it off
Right.
and bid it off and
Right.
make $10 million off
Right.
it.
Right.
You know, somebody out there wants to buy it, but why doesn't she get it back?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I
it's
mean,
pathetic.
It's
It
the
is.
same questions we're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to Mark's point, I think he makes a good point. What is in there that they're afraid of? What have they
Exactly.
been doing to it for the last,
Mhm.
almost 4 years?
Right.
What is in there?
Or
I
have
know, that's what makes
Apogee
me
give
wonder,
them
too.
give them their vehicle.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they bought the same exact one.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right.
That just kind of bothers me, because again, like we've always said, we were all kind of in agreement earlier on this, is that it's always one shocking thing after another. And even after she's
Yeah.
acquitted, she can't get her cell phone and her
It's
vehicle
crazy.
back. Like I said,
Right.
I'm willing to bargain with them. In other words, if it took them 7 to 14 days to do that, I totally get it. Maybe they have to clear
Bullshit.
through
No
paperwork.
bargaining. It's all
Okay,
bets
fine.
are off.
All right, no bargaining.
They fucked
All
her
right.
over for 3
Okay,
years.
no
Now,
bargaining. You get the thing back to her the day after tops.
give
Okay,
me-
I'm
give
on
me
your
my
side,
shit. I'm
Tracy.
from Medford. It's like,
I'm not
you're
gonna,
going
I'm not
in that
messing with
house,
you,
forget
Tracy.
about it.
No,
That
no, no.
door,
There is no bargaining. Okay.
No, I would have went through that door like the Kool-Aid kid.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah,
dead
yeah,
on my
yeah,
arm.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
Fair enough.
Sketchy. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
You're welcome.
My turn again. So I actually had some comments from Lynn, but really quick, I actually wanted to add my own thoughts to what you guys were talking about. The whole like independent journalist thing and Sean Paul Reyes being pursued by Fahey. It goes back to the question Allison asked me about how different independent media is from mainstream media, because independent journalists, ask the hard questions. They don't answer to anybody, and they're not protected by like the big media companies.
Yep.
So that is why you guys are a threat to them. And the other thing was, as far as what was my thought? It was about the other reason that this continues. I forget who it was. Somebody came up and asked a question about how does this keep happening? It is very well established in the history of this state, this type of corruption. We've been watching Trial 4 on Netflix, and it's insane the amount of corruption that's happened. Like it's become the status quo in the state. And so it takes a lot of work and time to break the status quo. So that's another huge factor of why this keeps happening. Okay. And now, Lynn, your comments were, the first thing she said was, Bob Alessi is not human. He sleeps 2.5 hours a night.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't make a movie as good as Verdict Day, filled with emotion, something I'll never forget. And then she was in the parking lot when DePietro crashed his car, the irony of it happening on Verdict Day, which is so true. And I think this is in regards to a comment I put in the chat about how Bev canceled court the day that Karen invited me to come sit in because of the heat. And Lynn just said she never heard of court being canceled for heat. And was that the day you were supposed to be there too? Okay. Yeah. So, we would have been there together then, but yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So that was the day I was supposed to be there. And I was just remember, what are you just not going to have court all summer long? It's hot. Like, welcome to New England in the summer.
Yeah. Wasn't even that about, it wasn't even more significantly hot that day than any other day, but you know.
The day after.
Oh, she needed to be down at the Cape that day. You know how that goes. Yeah.
It's
Today will be a half day.
Yeah. But I mean, going back to Lauren talking about Trial 4, and I've gotten into episode 5 now, and I'm kind of like, all right, how's this going to all start peeling back? And then you look at, what was it, Brazel, and I'm forgetting the names now. Brazel, and the guy that was killed, Mulligan.
Razzle dazzle.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're looking at all what they were doing. They were going on, shaking down people on the street, low-level drug dealers, getting them to say, well, basically, like, you're not going to be able to fight me because you have a warrant or whatever it is, shaking them down, taking their drugs, and then feeding them to the prostitutes. It was like insane, taking their money and shaking them down. And, to get all this lavish, I think Mulligan had, they said 8 condos that he had, raised this money for, but was always in trouble with getting those finances. So we had to go out and shake more people down. And then it became easier for him when he could go in after shaking all these suspects down, having them go into court, showing up for 10 minutes. He knew he would get paid for 4 hours. He could leave, bounce to another court, and so on and so on and so on. And that's how they suck up all this overtime. And it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I wonder if Fahey was doing stuff like that. And we saw, going back to Sean Paul Reyes and breaking that all open. But that's an interesting documentary. Again, I know it came out a couple years ago, but I just got into it because a lot of people have been talking about it lately. But check it out. Question.
Speaking about Fahey, I was
So have you step up
Come
to the mic.
microphone a little bit closer.
I was watching the show the other night, and I swear I heard it come out that the police officer Fahey that spit in the reporter's face,
State trooper,
is
by the
okay.
way. State trooper.
It's not an assault in Connecticut.
It's not an assault.
This is what I wanted to make. But I thought you said too that the police officer could spit.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
The grunt
People
police.
literally could go around and spit on each other in Connecticut.
Yeah.
If you're a police officer and I spit on a police officer in Connecticut, I will go to jail because in the statute, bodily fluids is in that statute. But if you were in Connecticut and I was Connecticut, you're a Connecticut resident, I'm a resident, I could literally spit on you and I could not
Try
get
it.
arrested for, yeah, I
Try
know.
it, see what
Then I
happens.
would be assaulted.
Right.
That would be assault.
Back down. That's it.
I'm not from that. I'm not from that. I just want to say one other thing about Karen and John and all that is that, you know, we always hear what such a great person John O'Keefe was. Okay. Yes, he did. I'm sure he was a great guy, but Karen also did a lot. She helped with the children. Not a lot of women would do that and sit up in a hotel room and not ring in the new year with your boyfriend. You know what I mean? So it's just, you know, and then when he did that to her the night that he died, accusing her of going with the, you know, waiting for the plumber or whatever it was. So, you know what? It was just, they didn't want to accept her.
Well, she was the odd person out in that, and it was the easiest person to blame on. And I still go back now thinking about all of this. And I honestly think that maybe one of their original plans, again, the people inside 34 Fairview, I think maybe allegedly one of their first plans were, oh my God, this just happened. You know, John's now dead. Drag him out on the front lawn. We know the plow guy is going to be by. Can you think about that?
Yeah,
that could have almost got pinned on Lucky Lawford. And you know what?
Yeah.
That guy, because he's such a stand-up guy, if they would have done that and said, look, you're going to go for a year, he probably would have been like, oh my God, and probably taken it. And he would have been an innocent guy like Karen, framed and put in jail. It just would have been insane. But then it just didn't, the timing wasn't there, and they had to come up with a quicker plan. Thus the 2:27 a.m. Google search, and then that starts spanning and spawning that all out.
Get your handcuffs out of retirement. Let's go.
No, it makes you wonder. Makes you wonder if they had possibly decided at some point, gee, we framed the wrong person. Should we have tried to frame Lucky if we could have just got him to believe? And because that's the whole ideology, it seemed like to me, was just to get Karen to believe, Karen, you did it. Karen, you did it. Oh my, you know, that was kind of seemed to be the attitude. If you did it to Lucky, it might have been more of a, oh my goodness, did I hit somebody when I was out there with my, you know, it might have been that chance. You know, so I wonder if they ever sit there sometimes, and we know who they all are, and I'm not going to mention names because I'm only speculating, of course. You know, they probably said they probably would have had a higher percentage chance of getting away with this if they tried to pin it on Lucky because of the fact that he's a plow driver. It would be more feasible and realistic for a plow driver to accidentally hit something or someone. But at the end of the day, you know, I think that fate chose Karen because these people were up to no good. And they needed to be exposed, and now look at them. A lot of them have to go on campaigns now to try to plead their innocence half the time because they messed with the wrong woman. But I don't think it was no accident. I think life or fate or God or whatever you believe in was meant and ordained for this to happen because some people out there in corruption needed to be exposed. This couldn't, you know, they would have done this to Lucky, Karen, or anybody else they could have thought of just to save themselves because John got you know, attacked and what happened. And it's absolutely disgusting and sickening what went down there. But I just got to say, I'm just thankful for Karen being a fighter because a lot of people could be really scared off in that situation. And could be scared off in that situation and plea deal, you know, come up with a plea deal. But Karen was just, she had the right strength, the right power, the right courage, the right level of intelligence to do what she did as far as finding two great attorneys out of California. I know there's a lot of Liza Little and Alan Jackson fans in here, I'm sure. I don't think anybody hates them, but you know, like we do other prosecutors. But yeah, I think that this was just a thing that all just came together for a reason. You know, and Karen's story is going to be a story with a lot of attached messages to it for decades to come. And I'm just hoping that people, not only those people in this room watching this show or supporting Karen, but people outside of this circle that we've all developed that grows all the time, can look in other cases as well that justice is needed, and that people aren't being framed for crimes they didn't commit. I think that's one of the biggest fights we've all fought here because we all believe in this, and this is, I'm sure for all of us, there's more than one reason why we support Karen, why we fought, why we've, you know, why we still continue to talk about this when this case ended months ago. We're all gathered here today, and we have viewers tuning in today, and this is a thing that goes on. I know someone from Anti-Karen Read had something to say yesterday that, you know, why is it that you guys are still so dedicated to this? Well, because it's about
didn't stop with
justice.
Karen's case. I mean, there's still a lot of cases that are intertwined to Karen's case.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's right, because it's still a mystery. I mean, if Unsolved Mysteries, you remember that show? They've been back on Netflix recently. If the whole aspect of an Unsolved Mysteries episode is because a mystery is unsolved, then technically, if Karen Reed didn't do this, then it's still an unsolved mystery because we still don't know if a dog was involved, which we certainly believe because we have physical evidence of that, but an individual or more
Right.
physically involved. And those are the things that we still look at and wonder who did this, who was responsible, how many people were physically involved, how many people were involved in covering this up, how many people were involved in moving the body out of the house and into the yard. These are all things that we have questions to that unfortunately we may not have any answers to, which is why a lot of us probably hope and pray that the feds have been watching this whole
they're
thing
still
and
watching.
monitoring, and that they're
They
one day
still
going to
be
jump
watching.
in and make arrests. But with the feds, a lot of us probably thought they were going to step in before the first trial, but here we are through 2 trials. They still haven't stepped in. Doesn't mean they won't, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they will. Even though Brian, a few others definitely seem confident in that happening, and I hope it does. I hope that they do have the information they need to take these people down, because again, a man was not only just a Boston police officer, but a man was murdered, and it wasn't Karen Reed. And we just went through as a state. I mean, you look at like fraud in the state of Massachusetts, or if you try to just commit anything that's fraud related in our country, it's ultimately a crime. We have people that were arrested for making fraudulent claims of, insurance claims for COVID that eventually went to jail over that in this country. And then you look at what's happened here. I mean, well, these are technically false claims against a woman that never committed a crime. Took 2 trials, 24 jurors combined, all agreed they wouldn't incriminate her. She got the walk both times, rightfully so. And again, all this has gone on. They thought they'd get away with all this. And again, it's just unfortunately that Canton police crime scene and state police crime scene was absolutely tainted. There's not enough evidence there to really ever take these people to court and convict them of anything, because the evidence is tainted, which means it all comes down to the FBI on what they intend to do or not do. And I hope and pray that they do something, because it is kind of sickening that these people out there have been able to pull this kind of thing off and still kind of walk around in public kind of claiming their innocence about it. Like, oh, well, it wasn't us, and how dare they say it was us. And it's something that really makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. And there needs to be justice for John O'Keefe, because at the end of the day, there's only a few people that know exactly what happened, and John O'Keefe's one of them. And that's an absolute fact. He knows what happened to himself, but he can't tell his story. And it's up to us to be the voice of the voiceless in this situation and continue to rise up and go for justice. And there were blue shirts out there last year that also never really showed up for the second trial, kind of just disappeared out of thin air. The people that were petitioning against us a year ago during the summer, they're nowhere to be found. They were nowhere to be found during the trial. And I think that the people that do care about justice for John O'Keefe are people that are like Karen Reed and their followers as well.
Well, they were going to go out one day, remember, for an hour.
Yeah.
1 hour. They were gonna
After the
protest
trial ended.
against- Yeah.
Yeah.
1 hour.
Yeah. And they showed their own event.
Yeah.
Think about that.
They did. They no-showed
Think
their
about
event.
that. They created events
And
and
they
no-showed
no-showed.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like us gathering here today and we all
And
just
just to
decided,
show up.
what, let's just go to the beach. The pizza's good here, but we'll go to pizza someplace else.
Yeah.
Oh, Nana, but it's sickening. It is.
Yeah.
It is bothersome to go to bed every night. Like, even for Karen and her family, from their perspective, Karen Reed just had to fight the fight of her life. All of us combined donated over $1 million. $1 million of our money.
Crazy.
Me and Brian were just like anybody else. We gave back money and supported money. Jen, a lot of standouts we were at, right? Worcester, Auburn, all over the place. A lot of standouts all over the place. Dedham, Legacy Place, the
Cape
North Shore,
Cod.
South Shore,
DC.
Plymouth,
Yep,
all over the
DC.
place. DC.
Yep.
You had people down south, people in other countries. And at the end of the day, it's like, look at all
San
that had to go
Diego.
in just to prove that, hey, this woman didn't do it, when it
Yeah.
was fairly obvious she didn't do it. This
Yeah.
case went to trial twice. It should have never gone to trial once. That's my rant for now.
And that being said,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's that's why we continue to talk about it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of unfinished business here, and these conversations and these types of conversations and gatherings need to continue.
Yeah.
And again, we still have a lot of work with Aiden. Sandra Birchmore, just en route, Enrique Delgado Garcia, and the list goes on and
Yeah.
on. And I'm tired of saying the list goes on and on. I don't want a list anymore. I don't want innocent people dead anymore. I want answers to when things happen. And we deserve that. You know, we deserve that. Question
Yeah.
or comment?
Speaking of, you just brought up Justin Root, and I'm just wondering, it's kind of more directed police question, if you don't mind. How is the mental health aspect handled, or could it be handled differently? Because clearly it's not being addressed correctly. And I'm wondering if, or how, or what. I mean, it's nothing that we can do, but it is something that needs to be addressed. Is the mental health should be addressed as they approach somebody before they shoot, preferably. And it's just scary because there's a lot of people with a lot of issues, and you never know what anybody's facing. And I want to have faith that we can trust them. And right now I don't, and it is scary.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder sometimes. Thank you.
So there are around the country, there are police departments that will have a clinician ride along with the police officers patrol. That's a best practice. We want to see more of that. The communities that don't use that practice, it could be the lack of resources. Maybe there's not a relationship between the police department and the local healthcare providers. I don't know what those dynamics are, but the communities that do utilize that type of a format are very successful at not having bad, tragic outcomes. So we just need to see that adopted a lot more. A mental health call is a horrible call. Police officers are not adequately trained to deal with mental health calls. We're just not. And I'm going to advocate for the police from this perspective, not for misconduct and wrongdoing, but officers in this particular area are called for calls for service that they shouldn't be called to. Here's the next thing. What happens when a police officer goes to a mental health call? They separate the person of interest from the family. Well, who knows the person better than the family members? You want, to some degree, a family member to help de-escalate the situation, to bring the situation under control.
Yeah.
They can't advocate. They're ill, right? They don't have the mental capacity. So the last thing they need are handcuffs in prison. The next thing they need is to be under a clinical care, at least for some type of 24, 48-hour psychological evaluation until they can get them back stable. I hope that answered your question.
Great.
Absolutely. Good.
Good.
I'm
gonna wrap it?
I'm gonna say I got a lot of juice in me. I don't know about the audience. I still got another. A lot of
Does
people have
anybody have
driven
any
out
other
and
questions? We got a couple more minutes before we wrap. Anybody, any other questions? No comments? No. All right.
Anybody write a song or a poem that they
Anybody
want
want to get up and tell us a joke?
Yeah.
I mean,
Joke.
we're
Yeah. Why did Lally cross the road?
Dever? She's on leave.
I'll talk about Kelly Dever for a few minutes. I was, going into the second trial, I thought Jen was the standout witness in the first one in terms of behavioral. Yeah. And then this time around, it was like, I'm expecting the same thing. And all of a sudden I see Kelly and I'm like, I'm just thinking it's going to be like a routine cross. Like there'll be some notable things. I'm not sitting here thinking I'm going to be like, wow. She's like, again, I don't know why I'm here.
Yes, you do.
It's supposed to be here today. And, it was like, oh, that was a wild, wild cross. And then he's like, you have no idea why you're here. No idea at all, Kelly. She's like, I have no idea at all. I'm like, wow, the toot on her, huh? But again, that kind of behavior, when you see that kind of person acting that way, then you say to yourself, okay, if you're acting defensive, you got something to hide.
That's
If you're
when they
absolutely
dug in.
innocent, and then you say something, you're like, well, I was a Canton police officer. I was here. That information I don't know. I knew I could answer for you. Like that's more of like being honest. But if you're like, I don't know why you have me on the stand. I don't know what that's when you're saying, okay, now I'm a person that's not a conspiracy theorist, but we do believe there's a cover up and a frame job. Now we're seeing your behavior on the stand this way. Now you're telling me right now that I have reason now to suspect that what you're saying is either untruthful or I just can't trust you.
Yeah.
And it all adds to the fact that what went on in the Sally Port. There's a lot, even the fact that the first trial, the footage was inverted. I think Mark Meadows said this. He said that that basically should have been enough to shut it down right there, that whole trial.
100%.
You have a prosecution that submitted footage that was inverted. And to me, that's deception. And it's the same as sharing footage that doesn't even bear any relevance.
I mean, did they think they were just going to sneak that in and was going to get by? I think that's what
obviously they tried.
That's what they thought.
Obviously they tried.
And I don't want to I don't want to sound dumb here, but how embarrassing to do that.
Yeah. Right.
To put your department on point like that and say, this is how we actually investigate cases.
Yeah.
We put in video evidence that's inverted. Did you not think that was going to get caught?
A lot of times too, people that are deceptive, they'll try to prey on people's lack of ability to not recognize something. And then you have a defense team that was extremely sharp and said that footage is inverted. And honestly, the first time I ever saw it, I didn't even pick up.
I didn't pick up on it either.
You did?
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. Then you look at the 4 in the background. It's like, oh, that's flipped around.
Police.
YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that thing is inverted. It's
it's nuts.
It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
They did.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And then one of my favorite theories is the glare. He's always talking about the shoe. And you do look at it and it's like, it's a good point. I mean, I guess the defense, the defense did what they did want to do and what they did not want to do. And I know the glare was sitting there like, I hope they talk about my theory on this. And I'm like, yeah, I do want to see that because now I'm curious about it because the shoe color was different. And it's, I guess.
I could play it out when they pulled out of the evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same
Right.
shoe that
Right.
was
Yeah.
shown.
Right.
Brand new. You walk up with snow and you're out in snow all night and all that. The white was spotless. It'd be
Yeah.
dirt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, that's right. And there'd be salt and sand. There'd be salt and sand and dirt all over that shoe. Maybe even some grass stains or whatever. They just, dog hair. Just none of it makes any sense. And that's because it's done to not make sense on purpose. Yeah, exactly. Good dog. Good dog.
Where'd I go?
Yeah, I'm sure.
100%.
I'm sure.
100%.
I'm sure. These people try to pull one over on all of us, and all of us are like, look, it's you got Microdots. Microdots. Look at the job he did with all his programming.
Yeah.
Reenacting everything, putting down graphics. Adding awesome John Carpenter music from Escaping from New York was my personal favorite part about it. But they did a great job, and I think what was so great about all of us collectively is we all kind of found our way to contribute. Like for me, I couldn't be in Norfolk County a lot. My schedule doesn't allow for it. I said, well, I use my X account. Well, I have a YouTube show I stopped using a couple months ago. What if I just start talking on YouTube? So that was kind of my approach. And so many of you guys were Northshore Nacho Night, $30,000 raised. Awesome. Awesome. Local gatherings. Some people did standouts. They did a lot of standouts. Let's get out there with a sign. Let's stand over overpasses. Let's stand in city centers. Let's stand outside Dedham Plaza. And I think what we ended up putting together was a group of people that all had different ways of contributing to the whole. And we all came up with our own ideas and paired off in groups that we could all collaboratively as well as individually get this job done. I think that's what was so powerful about this. You saw what Nick and Jenna Rocco did with raffles to raise money. Other groups that have nightly groups with giveaways and ways to
did the
raise funds.
signed photos of Karen.
The signed funds.
Yannetti photo. We auctioned those off for like $2,000 a piece for him,
It
and all the
huge.
creative ways of seeing everybody that did their part to kind of pitch in and did these events.
The Star Drive-In.
Made sweatshirts, the Star Drive-In. Erica, by the way, if you go to the Star Drive-In, just say LTL at the time of your order, you get 10% off. But there's all those creative ways and those creative things to do. And just doing, being able to jump on our channels and just have fundraisers and doing those direct donations. I was very proud that the last fundraiser we did just before the trial ended, I did 12,500 in direct
That's
donations
incredible.
in 3 hours.
That's incredible.
Impressive.
Yeah.
That's so impressive.
What was great too was Brian was just going to defer, to me as well as what was awesome too was like me and Brian would always be happy because sometimes we'd joke about being competitive about who could raise much money. And I'm like, wait, well, like technically, if I do a show, it raises like 5, and he does a show, it raises like 10,000. That's
There you go,
15,000.
15,000 in a
So it
couple
was
hours.
great because everyone was, first of all, everyone that donated made that happen.
Yes.
That's the
absolutely.
that's
Everybody
the truth.
here.
But I think what was great was we had those organized shows just to kind of say, encourage the giving, encourage the donate, because these people were ultimately trying to run our pockets dry. And my biggest concern, like a lot of my shows during this second trial were about raising money still, because I was absolutely, if anybody saw my show the night before the trial ended, before the verdict came in, I was nuclear that night because I'm like, they're going to try to screw over again. They're going to try to force a third trial. And the whole time I'm raising money constantly because I'm absolutely convinced in my head that they're going to force a third trial and we're going to take our eye off the ball and money raising. Not that we ever did, but I was like, I can't stop doing this. I got to, Brian did and many others did too, just because it was about what they could potentially do with a third trial. And when we talked about earlier about the judge's reaction when she saw that verdict slip, that tells you everything you need to know. And if she could have, she would have. And they were going to definitely force that third trial, but God willing, it didn't happen. So that is it for my end, Brian. I'll defer back to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. We have to wrap though, because I got to get the room broken down because they're coming to pick they're picking the tables up and the chairs and stuff. So we only have limited time to do that. Does anybody else have any other questions before we go? Again, I want to appreciate everybody for coming out from this. This is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun. I'd love to do another one of these again, maybe in another month or so. We can try to get this. Yeah, we can try to get into a bigger venue next time and really start to get some people in there and try to get some of these awesome people up on panel with us. Yeah, of course.
Go ahead. Adam Tipper.
So I just wanted to add a comment and I put it in the chat, but I wanted to add to Todd's point about funding and clinicians traveling with police officers. I actually wrote a paper on this in law school, so it's kind of sort of something that's close to my heart. And on top of clinicians traveling with police officers to handle things like mental health calls, in the US, mental health courts and drug courts actually exist. They are specialty courts that have clerk magistrates, that have judges, that deal specifically with criminal charges that have underlying issues of those criminal charges are the result of, somebody that suffers from mental health, like assaults from somebody that may have schizophrenia or other identity crises. And those special courts exist all over the country, but they are very, very heavily underfunded. They are not giving credence the way they should be. And this again goes back to, where does funding go in local municipalities? Where does funding go on a state level? And it all goes back to who you vote for and what they advocate. So all of this can be raised to the forefront, and they become issues that we need to fight for changes in funding. We need to fight for changes in how our local police departments are run, how our courts are run. And it all comes back to you as the voter in your local communities. You can write to your state rep saying that you need to advocate for this. I want you to advocate for that. Push this instead of that. It all goes back to you as a local voter, and it's important that you take control of your community and you ask the people that you are voting for to do what you voted for, to do what you wanted them to do. That's the reason why you voted them into the positions they're in. The power lies with you. And it's up to you to write to your state reps. It's up to you to write to your board of selectmen, your town councilman. It's up to you to take control of the town that you live in and say, hey, listen, we have this available as an option. You need to take it, not to ignore it the way it has been ignored for so long. So, we need to fight for, the funding for clinicians to respond to mental health calls, for mental health courts, for drug courts, addictions and everything else that lead to issues that shouldn't be escalated but de-escalated. It all goes back to, you need to fight for this in your local communities. So just so you're aware of that.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you. You all part of groundbreaking thing that we did here on LTL Media tonight. You are the first, and I hope that we have the opportunity to do this again down the road I'm going to try to start planning maybe another one of these out in a month, or maybe, you know, a month and a half, 2 months. And we'll do this again and have some fun. So I thank all of you for being part of the live audience tonight. This was really awesome. I had a lot of fun. I want to thank Mark for jumping up on panel, Adam Tiefer, Todd McGee, Lauren, and all of you. Thank you all so much. I'm looking forward to doing another one of these again soon. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this live stream. Say hi to everybody here, and we're gonna take off. Bye, everybody. Have a good night. Thanks for watching. Peace.